The royal transport ship moved quietly through the dark of space. Inside, Princess Alith Vershan sat near the window of her private chamber, watching distant stars pass by like tiny diamonds. She was tired. The diplomatic mission to the Orient system had lasted 3 long weeks, and now she just wanted to go home. Alith was the third daughter of Emperor Vershan, ruler of the Velari Empire. She had purple skin, silver eyes, and long white hair that fell past her shoulders. At 200 years old, she was still considered young by her people's standards. But she had already seen more of the galaxy than most Velari would see in their entire lives. The ship carried 30 crew members and 12 royal guards. It was not a warship, but it had good shields and fast engines. No one expected trouble in this part of space. The route was safe. It had always been safe. That was about to change. The first explosion rocked the ship so hard that Alith was thrown from her seat. Alarms screamed through the corridors. Red emergency lights flashed everywhere. She pulled herself up and ran to the door just as Commander Thalen burst in. "Your Highness, we are under attack," he said. His face was calm, but his eyes showed fear. "Kreth raiders. 3 ships. They disabled our engines with the first strike." Alith felt her blood go cold. The Kreth were brutal pirates who roamed the outer systems. They attacked trade ships, stole cargo, and sold prisoners as slaves. They feared nothing and respected no laws. "How did they find us?" she asked. "I do not know. But we must move you to the secure room immediately." More explosions shook the ship. Alith could hear weapons fire somewhere below them. The guards were already fighting. Thelen grabbed her arm and pulled her into the corridor. 2 more guards, Lieutenant Soren and a young soldier named Veth, joined them. They ran through the ship as chaos erupted around them. Crew members screamed. Smoke filled the air. The lights flickered and died, leaving only the red glow of emergency power. Alith heard the terrible sound of metal being torn apart. The Kreth were cutting through the holdout. They reached the secure room, but the door would not open. The power was gone. Thelen slammed his fist against the panel in frustration. "We need another way," Soren said. Before anyone could respond, a group of Kreth warriors appeared at the end of the corridor. There were 8 of them. They were tall and covered in thick gray scales. Their eyes glowed yellow in the darkness. Each one carried a curved blade and a plasma pistol. The leader pointed at Alith and made a harsh clicking sound. "The princess. Take her alive. Kill the rest." The guards raised their weapons, but they were outnumbered. Thelen stepped in front of Alith, ready to die for her. Soren and Veth did the same. The Kreth charged. What happened next would stay in Elith's memory forever. A figure dropped from the ceiling vent above the Fateh. Kreth. It landed in the middle of them like a shadow made solid. The figure wore old combat armor, scratched and dented from years of use. A dark helmet covered its entire face. No eyes, no features. Just black glass that reflected the red. Emergency lights. The figure moved faster than anything Alith had ever seen. The first Kreth died before it could even turn around. The armored stranger drove a short blade into its throat and pulled it out in one smooth motion. The second Kreth raised its pistol, but the stranger grabbed its arm, twisted, and broke it with a horrible snap. Then the blade found its heart. 3 seconds. 2 dead. The remaining Kreth tried to attack together, but it did not help them. The stranger moved through them like water through stones. Every strike was perfect. Every movement had purpose. There was no wasted energy, no hesitation. Just death, delivered with cold efficiency. Alith watched in shock as the armored figure killed all 8 Kreth in less than 20 seconds. When it was over, the stranger stood alone among the bodies, breathing hard but steady. Green blood dripped from the blade. Thalen kept his weapon raised. "Who are you?" The stranger did not answer. It simply looked at them for a moment, then pointed down the corridor and made a gesture that clearly meant, "Follow." "Your Highness, we cannot trust this thing," Thalen said. But Aleth had already made her choice. Whoever this warrior was, they had just saved her life. "We follow," she said. The stranger led them through the damaged ship, avoiding Kreth patrols with strange ease. It seemed to know exactly where the enemies were before they appeared. Twice more, they encountered raiders, and twice more, the armored figure cut them down without mercy. They reached the engine room, where the stranger worked quickly on the damaged systems. Alith did not understand what it was doing, but within minutes, the engines hummed back to life. The stranger had fixed them with nothing but spare parts and skill. Then it pointed toward the bridge and made another gesture. "Go. Take control. Leave. Wait," Alith said. "Who are you? Why did you help us?" The stranger paused. Then it reached into a pocket and pulled out a small metal object. It pressed the object into Elith's hand, then turned and walked toward the escape pod bay. "Stop," Alith called. "At least tell me your name." But the stranger was already gone, disappearing into the smoke and darkness like a ghost. Minutes later, as the surviving crew took control of the ship and jumped to safety, Alith looked at the object in her hand. It was a spent ammunition casing, made of a metal she did not recognize. Strange symbols were stamped into its surface. Commander Thalen looked at it and frowned. "I have never seen markings like these. What species uses such primitive projectile weapons?" Alith closed her fingers around the casing. She did not know who had saved her. She did not know what species they belonged to or why they had risked their life for a stranger. But she knew one thing with absolute certainty. She was going to find them, whatever it took. Wherever she had to go, she would find the warrior who had appeared from nowhere and saved her life. She owed them a debt, and Princess Alith Vershan always paid her debts. The ship flew toward home, carrying its wounded crew and its shaken princess. Behind them, the Kreth raiders burned in the void, and somewhere out there, a lone figure in battered armor drifted away in a small escape pod, watching the royal ship disappear into the stars. He did not expect thanks. He did not want recognition. He had simply done what needed to be done. That was enough. It had to be. 3 weeks had passed since the attack, and Princess Alith could not stop thinking about the stranger. She stood in her chamber at the Imperial Palace, holding the ammunition casing up to the light. The metal was dull gray, and the strange symbols stamped into it made no sense to any scholar she had shown it to. Every weapons expert in the Empire had examined it. None of them could identify its origin. "You are wasting your time," her father said. Emperor Vershan stood at the doorway, his arms crossed over his chest. He was tall and powerful, with deep purple skin and eyes that had seen 1,000 years of history. He loved his daughter, but he did not understand her obsession. "I owe this person my life," Alith said. "Our honor code demands that I repay the debt." "Our honor code also demands wisdom," the Emperor replied. "You have searched for weeks and found nothing. No species in our records matches what you described. Perhaps the warrior was simply a mercenary passing through. Perhaps they do not wish to be found. Then I will search harder." The Emperor sighed. "Alith, you are a princess of the Valari Empire. You have responsibilities. You cannot spend your days chasing ghosts." But Alith had already made up her mind. After her father left, she contacted a name that Commander Thelen had given her with great reluctance. Rin was an information broker who worked in the shadows between legal and illegal. She found things that could not be found. For the right price, she could locate anyone in the galaxy. They met in secret at a small trading port 2 days later. Rin was a thin creature with 4 arms and skin that changed color depending on her mood. Right now, Her skin was pale green, which meant she was curious. "A princess hiring someone like me," Rin said, clicking her teeth together. "This must be serious." Aleph handed her the ammunition casing. "I need to find the person who used this. They saved my life during the Kreth attack." Rin examined the casing carefully. Her skin shifted to yellow, which meant surprise. "Interesting. Very interesting. This is old technology. Primitive. Chemical propellant, metal projectile. Almost no one uses weapons like this anymore. Can you find who made it?" "I can try. But Princess, if this person does not want to be found, there's probably a good reason. Are you sure you want to pull on this thread?" "I am sure." Rin nodded slowly. "Give me 1 week." It took only 5 days. Rin contacted Aleph with coordinates to a remote frontier station called Haven's Rest. It was located in the outer territories, far from the civilized core worlds. The kind of place where people went when they wanted to disappear. "The ammunition was traded at this station 6 months ago," Rin explained. "I tracked the seller to a man named Danny Cole. He lives there, works odd jobs, keeps to himself. The Princess, I must warn you. The people I spoke to were afraid to talk about him. Whatever he is, he makes them nervous." Aleph did not care. She had her answer. She told her father she was visiting a minor colony for diplomatic purposes. It was a lie, but a necessary one. She took only 2 guards with her, Commander Thielen, who insisted on coming despite his doubts, and Lieutenant Soren, who was young and eager for adventure. They traveled in a small, unmarked ship to avoid attention. The journey took 3 days. When they finally arrived at Haven's Rest, Aleph understood why someone would choose to hide here. The station was old and ugly. Metal walls showed patches of rust. The air smelled like machine oil and unwashed bodies. The people who walked the corridors were a mix of species, all of them rough and tired-looking. Refugees, outcasts, criminals, the forgotten ones of the galaxy. Aleph wore a simple, gray cloak to hide her identity. Thielen and Soren wore civilian clothes, though they kept their weapons hidden beneath their coats. They walked through the crowded corridors, searching for information. No one wanted to talk. Every time Aleph mentioned the armored warrior or asked about Danny Cole, people looked away. Some walked faster to escape the conversation. Others simply shook their heads and stayed silent. It was strange. These were rough people who did not seem afraid of anything. But something about her questions made them uncomfortable. Finally, they found a small bar near the cargo docks. It was dark and smoky inside. A few dozen beings sat at tables, drinking and playing games. Behind the counter stood an old creature with scarred gray skin and only one eye. Aleph approached him. "I am looking for someone. A warrior in dark armor. I was told his name is Danny Cole." The bartender stared at her for a long moment. His one eye moved to Thielen and Soren, reading them carefully. Then he let out a low, rough laugh. "You are not the first to come looking for him," he said. "Bounty hunters, debt collectors, people who want revenge. They all come. They all leave disappointed. Or they do not leave at all. I mean him no harm," Aleph said. "He saved my life. I only wish to thank him." The bartender studied her face. Something in her eyes must have convinced him she was telling the truth, because his expression softened just a little. "Danny Cole is not a bad man," he said quietly. "He helps people here, fixes things, protects us when trouble comes. But he has secrets, dark ones. And there is a reason the galaxy pretends his kind does not exist." "His kind?" Aleph frowned. "What do you mean?" The bartender leaned closer. His voice dropped to a whisper. "You are looking for Danny Cole, but lady, you do not want to find him. Not if you know what he is. What is he?" The bartender hesitated. Then he spoke a single word that made Elith's blood run cold. Human. Aleph felt the ground shift beneath her feet. Human. She knew that word. Every species in the galaxy knew it. Humans were a quarantined species from a small planet called Earth. They were considered primitive, violent, and dangerous. The Galactic Council had forbidden contact with them centuries ago. Any human found outside their home system was to be captured and returned immediately. That is impossible, Dylan said. Humans cannot survive outside their system. The quarantine is absolute. The bartender shrugged. Tell that to Danny Cole. He's been living here for 10 years. Docking Bay 7. But remember what I said. Some secrets are buried for a reason. Aleph stood frozen for a moment. Then she turned and walked out of the bar without another word. Thielen and Soren hurried to follow her. Your Highness, we should leave, Thielen said urgently. If this man is truly human, then speaking to him is a violation of galactic law. Your father would never allow it. But Aleph was already walking toward Docking Bay 7. A human had saved her life. A member of a species that the galaxy feared and hated. A being that everyone said was nothing but a dangerous animal. She needed to understand why. Docking Bay 7 was small and poorly lit. Old cargo containers were stacked against the walls, and the floor was stained with oil and rust. In the center of the bay sat a ship that had clearly seen better days. It was a light freighter, maybe 30 years old, with patched hull plates and an engine that looked like it might fall apart at any moment. The name painted on the side read Wanderer. A man was working beneath the ship, only his legs visible. The sound of tools clanging against metal echoed through the bay. Aleph stopped a few meters away. Her heart was beating fast, though she did not fully understand why. She had faced Kreth raiders without fear. She had spoken before the Galactic Council without trembling. But now, standing in this dirty docking bay, she felt something she could not name. Hello? She called out. The clanging stopped. The man slid out from under the ship and sat up. For a moment, he just looked at her dot. He was smaller than she had expected. Average height, lean build with short brown hair and tired eyes. His face was rough with stubble, and his hands were covered in grease. He wore simple work clothes, nothing like the dark armor she remembered. He looked ordinary, unremarkable, the kind of person you would walk past without noticing. But those eyes. There was something in those eyes that made Elith's breath catch. They were the eyes of someone who had seen too much. Someone who had been through fire and come out the other side. You should not be here, he said. His voice was calm and quiet. He spoke the common galactic language with a strange accent. You are Danny Cole, Aleph said. It was not a question. And you are Princess Alith Vershan of the Valari Empire. He stood up slowly, wiping his hands on a rag. I saw your picture on the news after the attack. They said you survived. I am glad. Commander Thielen stepped forward, his hand moving toward his hidden weapon. How do you know who she is? Because I was there, Danny said simply. On the ship. When the Kreth attacked, Alith reached into her pocket and pulled out the ammunition casing. You dropped this. I have been searching for you for weeks. Danny looked at the casing for a long moment. Something flickered across his face. Regret, maybe. Or sadness. I should have been more careful. I did not think anyone would come looking. You saved my life, Alith said. You killed 12 Kreth warriors by yourself. You fixed our engines. Then you disappeared without a word. I need to understand why. Why does it matter? Because I owe you a debt. My people take such things seriously. Danny shook his head slowly. You do not owe me anything. I saw people in danger. I helped. That is all. No debt. No obligation. Just the right thing to do. Alith stared at him. She had met many warriors in her life. Knights, generals, mercenaries. All of them wanted something. Glory, money, power. But this man spoke as if saving a princess from certain death was nothing special. As if it was simply what anyone would do. "You are human," she said. Danny's expression did not change. "Yes, your species is quarantined. You are not supposed to exist outside Earth. If the Galactic Council learned you were here, they would arrest you, possibly execute you. I know. Then why stay? Why risk your life for strangers? Why not hide somewhere safer?" Danny was quiet for a moment. Then he walked to a nearby crate and sat down heavily. He looked tired. Not just physically tired, but tired in his soul. "Do you know why humans are quarantined?" he asked. "Because you are dangerous," Thielen said. "Your species is violent and unpredictable. You nearly destroyed your own planet with wars and weapons." "That is the story they tell," Danny said. "And it is partly true. Humans have done terrible things. We have fought wars. We have killed each other. We have made weapons that could destroy worlds." He paused. "But that is not the whole truth." Alice sat down on another crate across from him. "Then tell me the whole truth." Danny looked at her for a long moment, as if deciding whether to trust her. Then he began to speak. "I was a soldier on Earth. We had a war. A big one. The last one, they called it, because when it ended, there was nothing left to fight for. Millions of people died. Cities burned. I lost everyone I loved. My family, my friends, everyone." His voice did not shake. He spoke the words like facts, distant and cold. But Alith could see the pain behind them. "After the war, the aliens came. Your Galactic Council. They had been watching us for years, waiting to see if we would destroy ourselves. When we finally stopped fighting, they made contact. But they were not there to help us. They were there to contain us." "The quarantine," Alith said softly. "Yes, they decided that humans were too dangerous to join the galactic community. Too violent. Too unstable. So they sealed our system. No one in, no one out. Earth became a prison, but you escaped." Danny nodded. "Some of us did. A few thousand scattered across the galaxy. We hide. We survive. We do not cause trouble because trouble means attention, and attention means death." He looked at her with those tired eyes. "I have been running for 15 years. Haven's Rest is the closest thing I have had to a home." Alith did not know what to say. Everything she had been taught about humans told her that this man should be a monster. A savage. A threat to civilized society. But sitting here, looking at him, she saw only a tired soldier who had lost everything and still chose to help others. "You saved me because it was the right thing to do," she said slowly. "Even though helping me could expose you. Even though the Kreth could have killed you. Even though my own people would arrest you if they knew what you were." "Yes. Why?" Danny smiled, but it was a sad smile. "Because I am tired of running. Tired of hiding. Tired of pretending that I do not care what happens to the people around me. When I saw those raiders attacking your ship, I could not just watch. I had to do something." He shrugged. "Maybe that makes me stupid. But I would rather be stupid and help people than smart and alone." Before Alith could respond, an alarm began blaring throughout the station. Red lights flashed in the corridor outside the docking bay. Danny was on his feet instantly, his whole body tense. "What is happening?" Soren asked. Danny ran to a control panel and pulled up a screen. His face went pale. "Kreth warships," he said. 3 of them. They just dropped out of hyperspace. They are demanding that the station hand over a Valari princess, or they will destroy everyone aboard. Alith felt ice spread through her chest. They had found her. Somehow, the Kreth had tracked her here. "We have to leave," Thielen said urgently. "We can take our ship and run before they lock down the station." "No," Danny shook his head. "Their ships are faster than yours. They would catch you within minutes." He looked at Aleph, and something changed in his eyes. The tiredness was gone. In its place was something hard and sharp. "Then what do we do?" Aleph asked. Danny reached into a storage locker and pulled out his old combat armor. The same armor she had seen on the ship. The same armor that had cut through Kreth warriors like paper. "We fight," he said. The station fell into chaos within minutes. People ran through the corridors, screaming and pushing. Some tried to reach the docking bays to escape. Others hid in storage rooms, praying the Kreth would not find them. Fear spread like a disease. Danny moved against the crowd, fully armored now, his helmet under his arm. Aleph, Thielen, and Soren followed close behind him. They pushed their way towards the station's main control room, where a crowd had already gathered. The station master was a fat creature named Grell. He stood on a platform, trying to calm the terrified crowd with little success. When he saw Danny approaching, his eyes went wide. "Cole, thank the stars you are here. The Kreth are demanding we hand over some Valari princes. If we do not comply in 1 hour, they will start firing on the station." "How many ships?" Danny asked. 3 cruisers, each one carrying at least 200 warriors. We have no weapons that can stop them. We have no shields that can survive their bombardment. Grell's voice cracked with fear. "We are dead. All of us." Murmurs spread through the crowd. Some people turned to look at Aleph, recognizing her now. Their eyes were not friendly. "Give them the princes," someone shouted. "Why should we die for some royal? She brought them here. This is her fault." More voices joined in. The crowd began pressing closer. Thielen drew his weapon and stepped in front of Aleph, but there were too many of them. Enough. Danny's voice was not loud, but it cut through the noise like a blade. Everyone stopped. The crowd went silent. All eyes turned to him. "I understand you are scared," he said. "I understand you want to survive. But handing over an innocent woman to murderers will not save you. The Kreth do not keep their promises. They will take the princess, and then they will destroy the station anyway. That is who they are. Then what do you suggest?" Grell asked. "We cannot fight 3 cruisers." "No, we cannot. But we do not need to win. We just need to survive long enough for help to arrive." Danny turned to Aleph. "Can you contact the Valari fleet?" Aleph nodded. "If I can reach a long-range communication array, I can send an emergency signal. But the nearest fleet is at least 2 hours away. Then we hold for 2 hours." Danny looked at the crowd. "I am not asking you to be heroes. I am asking you to fight for your homes, for your families, for the lives you have built here. The Kreth want you to give up. They want you to be afraid. Do not give them what they want." Silence hung in the air. Then, slowly, the old bartender stepped forward, the one with one eye who had told Aleph about Danny. "I did not survive 40 years on this station just to die begging for mercy," he said. "Tell me what to do." One by one, others joined him. A mechanic, a trader, a refugee mother with hard eyes. Within minutes, nearly half the crowd had volunteered to fight. Danny allowed himself a small smile. "Good. Let us get to work." What followed was the most intense hour of Elith's life. Danny took command as if he had been born for it. He divided the volunteers into groups and assigned them tasks. Some reinforced the airlocks to slow down boarding parties. Others gathered weapons from storage lockers and cargo holds. A team of mechanics worked to strengthen the station's weak shields. Danny himself focused on the mining charges. Avon's Rest had once been a mining station, and there were still dozens of explosive devices in the lower levels. He loaded them onto small cargo drones and programmed them to fly toward the Kreth ships. "This will not destroy the cruisers," he explained to Alith. "But if we hit them in the right places, we can damage their weapons and slow them down." "How do you know all this?" she asked. "You said you were a soldier, but this is something else. You think like a general." Danny paused. "On Earth, I was what they called a special forces operator. We trained for situations like this. Small teams against big enemies. No support. No backup. Just you and whatever you could find." He shrugged. "I never thought I would use those skills again." The first wave came 30 minutes later. The Kreth did not bother with warnings. Their cruisers opened fire on the station, and the old shields flickered under the assault. Then the boarding pods launched. Dozens of them, each carrying a squad of Kreth warriors, punching through the station's hull like needles. Danny's traps were waiting. The first pod breached the cargo bay and found nothing but empty space. The Kreth warriors inside had just enough time to realize something was wrong before the mining charges hidden among the containers exploded. The fireball consumed them instantly. Two more pods hit the same trap. Then the Kreth got smarter, sending scouts ahead before committing their forces. But Danny had expected that. He had set up ambushes at every choke point, turning the station's narrow corridors into killing grounds. Alith fought alongside Thillen and Soren, using a pistol she had taken from a dead raider. She had trained in combat since childhood, but this was different. This was real. The smell of blood, the screams of the dying, the weight of a life ending by her hand. She saw Danny move through the battle like a ghost. He was everywhere at once, appearing from shadows to cut down enemies, and then vanishing before they could react. When a group of Kreth broke through the eastern airlock, he held them alone for 6 minutes until reinforcements arrived. When a young volunteer was wounded and trapped behind enemy lines, Danny went back for him, carrying him to safety under heavy fire. Commander Thielen fought beside him during one of the worst assaults. Afterward, covered in green Kreth blood, he looked at Danny with new eyes. "I was wrong about you," Thielen said. "I thought humans were savages. But you fight with honor. You protect the weak. You refuse to abandon anyone. That is what being human should mean," Danny said quietly. The battle raged on. The station's shields failed. Fires broke out in the lower levels. The medical bay filled with wounded. For every Kreth they killed, 2 more seemed to take its place. Then the lead cruiser moved closer, preparing to deliver a final devastating strike. Danny launched the cargo drones. 20 small machines, each carrying a mining charge, flew toward the cruiser in a scattered pattern. The Kreth point defense guns destroyed most of them, but 3 made it through. They hit the cruiser's main cannon array just as it was charging the fire. The explosion tore the front of the ship apart. The cruiser went dark, spinning away from the station, crippled and burning. A cheer went up from the defenders. But it was short-lived. There were still 2 cruisers, still hundreds of Kreth warriors aboard the station. And Danny was wounded. Alice found him slumped against a wall after the drone attack. A Kreth blade had caught him across the side, and blood was soaking through his armor. He was pale and breathing hard. "You need medical attention," she said. "No time." He forced himself to stand. "We have to hold the communication room. They know you are trying to call for help. They will throw everything at that position." He was right. The final assault came minutes later. 50 Kreth warriors charged the communication room where Alith was sending her emergency signal. Danny and the surviving defenders made their stand at the entrance. It was brutal. People died around Alith as she worked. She heard Danny shouting orders, heard weapons fire, heard the terrible sounds of close combat. The signal was almost ready. 90%, 95. A Kreth warrior broke through the line and charged at her. Danny appeared from nowhere, tackling the creature and driving his blade into its throat. But the effort cost him. He collapsed at Eli's feet, his wound bleeding freely. The signal completed. The message flew out into space, racing toward the Volari fleet. "It is done," Aleph said. Danny smiled weakly. "Good." Then his eyes closed, and he did not move again. Aleph screamed for help. Phelan and Soren dragged Danny to cover while the remaining defenders held the door. Outside, the battle continued. But somewhere in the darkness of space, Volari warships were already jumping to hyperspace. Help was coming. They just had to survive long enough to see it. Aleph knelt beside Danny, pressing her hands against his wound, trying to stop the bleeding. "Stay with me," she whispered. "You did not save my life just to die now. Stay with me." But he did not answer. Danny Cole woke to the sound of soft music playing somewhere nearby. He opened his eyes slowly. The ceiling above him was white and clean, decorated with elegant patterns that seemed to glow with inner light. The air smelled fresh and sweet, nothing like the oil and smoke of Haven's Rest. For a moment, he thought he was dead. Then the pain hit him, and he knew he was very much alive. He tried to sit up, but his body refused to cooperate. His side burned where the Kreth blade had cut him. His muscles felt weak and heavy. He had been badly hurt. That much was clear. Do not try to move. Aleph stepped into his view. She was dressed in fine clothes now, purple and silver, that matched her skin and eyes. But her face was tired, and there were dark circles under her eyes that suggested she had not slept well in some time. "Where am I?" Danny asked. His voice came out rough and dry. "The Imperial Medical Center on Vela Prime, the finest hospital in the Empire. You have been unconscious for 12 days. She sat down in a chair beside his bed. "The doctors say it is a miracle you survived. Your wound was severe, and you lost a great deal of blood. If the fleet had arrived even 10 minutes later, you would have died." Danny processed this information slowly. The station. Haven's Rest. What happened? The Volari fleet destroyed the remaining Kreth ships. The station was damaged, but it still stands. Most of the defenders survived, thanks to you. She paused. You are something of a hero there now. The people speak of the human who stood against an army to protect them. That is not good, Danny said. Attention is dangerous for someone like me. That is what I wanted to talk to you about. Aleph leaned forward. After you collapsed, I told Commander Thelen to keep your identity secret. He agreed. As far as the official reports say, you are a mercenary of unknown species who aided in the defense. No one knows you are human. Danny looked at her carefully. Why would you protect me? Your people are supposed to hate humans. Fear us. You should have turned me over to the Galactic Council the moment you learned what I was, because you showed me that everything I believed about humans was wrong. Alice stood and walked to the window. Outside, a beautiful city stretched to the horizon, full of tall towers and floating gardens. The heart of the Volari Empire, home to billions of people. I was taught that humans were monsters, she said softly. Violent, selfish, incapable of anything but destruction. That was why the quarantine was necessary. To protect the galaxy from your species. She turned to face him. But then you came. You saved my life when you had nothing to gain. You fought for strangers who would have handed you over to your enemies if given the chance. You bled for a station full of refugees who were not your people, not your responsibility, not your concern. They were people in danger, Danny said simply. That was enough. Yes, that was enough for you. And that is exactly my point. Aleph returned to her chair. I spoke to my father. I told him everything. About the attack on my ship. About Haven's Rest. About you. Danny tensed. What did he say? He was angry at first, furious that I had kept secrets from him, furious that I had put myself in danger. But then he listened, really listened. And when I finished, he was quiet for a long time. She smiled slightly. My father is many things, but he is not blind to truth. He agreed to grant you a full pardon for any violation of the human quarantine. You have been given official citizenship in the Valari Empire, with all the rights and protections that come with it. Danny stared at her. He had expected many things when he woke up. Arrest, execution, at best, a quiet escape back to the fringes of the galaxy. This was not on his list. Why? He asked. Because you deserve it. Because it is right. And because I asked him to. Silence filled the room. Danny looked down at his hands, thinking about everything he had lost. His home, his family, his world. For 15 years, he had been running, hiding, surviving, never belonging anywhere, never trusting anyone, always waiting for the day when his luck would run out. And now this princess was offering him something he had never dared to hope for. A chance to stop running. A chance to belong. There is more, Alith said. I have a request. You are free to refuse, and I will respect your choice. But I want you to consider it. What is it? I want you to serve as my personal guardian. Danny blinked. You're what? My personal guardian. You would be responsible for my safety. You would travel with me, protect me, advise me. It is an honored position, usually held by the finest warriors in the Empire. She met his eyes steadily. I am not asking because I need protection. I have Commander Thielen and many others for that. I am asking because I want to show the galaxy what a human truly is. Not a monster, not a savage, but a person of courage and honor who deserves respect. The Galactic Council will not like that, Danny said. Having a human in such a visible position, it will cause trouble. Good. Trouble is how things change. The quarantine is wrong. The way the galaxy treats your people is wrong. If I can make even a small difference by giving you a place at my side, then the trouble is worth it. Danny was quiet for a long time. He thought about the years of hiding, the loneliness, the endless running. Then he thought about the people of Haven's Rest, standing beside him against impossible odds. He thought about the bartender with one eye, ready to die rather than beg for mercy. He thought about Alith herself, a princess who had risked everything to find a stranger who saved her life. Maybe the galaxy was not as hopeless as he had believed. I will accept, he said finally. On one condition. Name it. There are other humans out there. Thousands of us scattered across the galaxy, hiding just like I was. If I do this, I want to help them too. Find them, protect them, give them the same chance you are giving me. Alice smiled, and for the first time since Danny had known her, she looked truly happy. I was hoping you would say that. I already spoke to my father about it. He agreed. We will work together to find your people and bring them out of the shadows. Danny felt something shift inside his chest. A weight he had carried for 15 years, slowly beginning to lift. He was not free of it yet. Probably never would be completely. But for the first time in a very long time, he felt something close to hope. 2 weeks later, Princess Alith Vashon walked into the main chamber of the Galactic Council. Representatives from 1,000 species filled the hall, their voices creating a constant hum of conversation. At her side walked Danny Cole. He wore simple formal clothes instead of his armor, and his face was visible for all to see. Clearly, unmistakably human. The chamber fell silent. Whispers spread like fire. Council members pointed and stared. Some looked horrified. Others looked angry. A few looked curious, but no one looked away. Alith walked to the center of the chamber and stopped. Her voice rang out clear and strong. members of the Galactic Council, I present to you my honored guardian, Daniel Cole of Earth. Many of you know the laws regarding his species. Many of you believe those laws are just. I am here to tell you that they are not. The whispers grew louder. Someone shouted in protest. But Alith continued. This man saved my life. Not once, but twice. He stood against impossible odds to protect innocent people. He bled for strangers. He asked for nothing in return. He's everything that the galaxy claims to value. And yet your laws would condemn him simply for existing. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of those who would judge her. I am not asking you to change your laws today. I am asking you to open your minds, to question what you have been taught, to look at this man and see him for what he truly is. Not a monster, not a threat, but a member of a species that has much to offer, if only you would give them the chance. Danny stood beside her, calm and steady. He did not speak. He did not need to. His presence was enough. A human standing in the heart of galactic power, unafraid and unashamed. The chamber erupted into argument. Some called for Alith's removal. Others demanded Danny's arrest. But many simply watched, thinking, reconsidering. Alith turned to Danny and smiled. This is just the beginning, she said quietly. Danny nodded. I know, but it is a good beginning. Together, they walked out of the chamber, leaving chaos and possibility in their wake. The road ahead would be long and difficult. There would be enemies and obstacles at every turn. But for the first time in centuries, humanity had a voice in the galaxy, and they intended to use it.